Hello everyone, my name is Aaron and I am here to answer the simple question, why is Dark Tower? Wait, that doesn't sound right. Here, let me check my notes real quick. Oh, it's called Weird West. Okay then, well, I am here to answer the simple question of why is Weird West? Now you listen here, Wolf Eye Studios. Lovecraft may forgive you for this, but I'm not going to. This here Western game, it's got this feel to it. And I've played this game before. I know for a fact I've played this game before. I mean, yeah, sure. I don't remember quite as many, skinwalkers and, well, I do remember some cannibals, but I definitely don't remember the skinwalkers. Although, in this game I used to play, there definitely were odd human-esque creatures that weren't human and they were really bad. Now I think about it, what was that? Oh, I know what I was thinking. Yeah, see what I was thinking is that I liked this game better back when we used to call it Fallout and I was allowed to do porn. But let's see here. So Weird West starts off with this odd, I guess you could call it initiation ceremony. Basically, there's somebody in a chair and they're getting ready to get branded, which I gotta tell you, not a fan of. Don't like the idea of being branded. That probably hurts. But you do see these odd portraits that are kind of blacked out, all on these pillars surrounding the person. The very first one, you may notice in a little bit, looks exactly like your character profile, which definitely means that these are the 5 bounty hunters that the story is going to focus on. Flash forward to this bounty hunter. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Retired bounty hunter, because we can't have a Western without having left the life behind, am I right? But you sit there in your house, just chilling. And while you're chilling in your house, your son and your husband are being accosted, we shall say, by some ne'er-do-wells. Your husband is taken and the child is shot in the face. And I gotta say, Wolf Eye Studios, don't you dare try and make me care about a kid. I mean it. He probably had cholera anyways. Like, the real tragedy here, they shot my dog. Yeah, they John Wicked me. And that is my personal headcanon on why I am so angry. Has nothing to do with the kid or the husband, I'll tell you that. But after your son is shot in the face, your dog is unfortunately put to rest, and your husband is taken, you then set out for, well, you know what it's going to be, revenge. And you bury your kid if you want to. You can bury your dog, which I definitely should have done first. I buried the kid first, and that was a mistake, I feel like. After burying your dog and your child, you go out into your backyard and you dig a hole pretty quickly. In this hole, you find your old bounty hunter gear. You strap up, and conveniently enough, even though you're no longer in the lifestyle, you do have a nice little shooting range set up there where you can test out these actually surprisingly effective controls. You could call it like a twin shootery kind of feel, and it definitely gets the job done. Hey man, I'm not supposed to be talking about happy stuff yet. You get to go through your classic little tutorial where it teaches you how to shoot your weapons and reload. Oddly enough, however, you are wielding a revolver, not the odd part for a Western, but they insist on talking about your magazine being empty. And I really defy anyone to show me a magazine-fed revolver, and I don't know why that bothers me, but it's definitely a point off. I'm going to tell you that right now. They do it with the double-barrel shotgun as well. Mag-fed double-barrel shotgun. Something about that just doesn't sit right with me. But after you learn your controls, you talk to the sheriff a little bit. She tells you a little something about the Stillwaters, this local gang of ne'er-do-wells who used to do things like running alcohol or illegal trades and all the such. And now they have started abducting people, which is a big leap in the criminal world, I would feel. But you talk to her, and then you agree to meet her in the town next door to your home. Here's where you get to learn both the constrictive nature of the game as well as the expansive world that it does offer. The game is divided up into your settlements or interesting locations, things of that nature, where you have a big square with all your goodies in it, and a clearly defined border telling you that you'll leave the area and then go into the map. Going into the map, you just have that, a giant map of the whole world. And any areas that you know of, you can travel there. And this is gonna look very familiar because it's exactly like Fallout. So you travel over to the town, meet up with the sheriff, and you agree to murder all the people who have wronged you. This is also where you're going to start getting the chance to take up other quests and bounties and helping people around the town or random people you meet out in the wilds or murdering bears because the bears have rabies apparently. But all these things is where the game actually starts opening up and it allows you to enjoy it, and you get to really take in the impressive cell shading animation of of the game, as well as the amazing music. Hold on. Oh, man. I did it again. Why is it in all these Y videos? I'm here to totally talk smack about these games, and I end up liking them and having and agreeing to them being good. Well, it's probably because the whole point of these videos is to justify a game's existence. Well, I guess I better get to justifying then. So, Weird West, I've already talked a lot of smack about it, in that it is very much inspired by Fallout, and it is. The way this game is, if you could call it a genre, is definitely the Fallout genre. And I'm talking classic Fallout, Fallout 1, Fallout 2. You've got this top-down game where you can interact with people, you have a reputation you have to maintain, you can steal, you can buy, you can trade, you can explore. The story is there for you whenever you want to tackle it, but you don't have to tackle it on their timeline. You get to do it on yours. So you can either rush right out and immediately start working towards saving your husband and tackling whatever it is the Stillwaters are up to. You could just say, screw that mess, and travel around the world exploring new things, just become a bounty hunter, forget your husband. It's possible there might even be repercussions for actions like that. The game is definitely not shy about putting deadlines on any of the actions that you agree to take. For example, whenever you take on a bounty, on most of them you have about 15 in-game days to get it done, which granted is really plenty of time. And that actually might sound weird at first, but it works out really well because you can load up on objectives, go out into the wilds, and spend time traveling from one objective to the next. And then that way, you don't have to return to town until you've loaded up on a sizable amount of rewards. Now, based on what I have seen so far in the game, these rewards can be fairly nice, but at the same time, it feels like you have to do a fair amount to be able to get things like new gear. The game does give you plenty of options there, and it does allow for a slow progression on it. Based on what I saw, I feel like it is a really nice level of progression. It gives you plenty of time to explore. Now, the game is doing this by relying heavily on the idea that the random encounters you're going to have or the random quests you're going to stumble upon are going to be great ways of keeping you entertained and wanting to explore. And I do have to say, based off of what I saw, they do indeed do that. As I've stated before, the game, in terms of its play, is very heavily similar to the classic Fallout games. However, thanks to modern mechanics like the twin stick shooters that we have now, it actually really builds on that kind of game. I don't personally feel like I would have enjoyed this as much with a controller, but playing it as I did with mouse and keyboard, it was fantastic. I could not argue with the controls at all. There are definitely some points where I would start getting my butt whooped in combat, but never once was it because the controls were clumsy or because they weren't responsive. It was 100% user error. Weird West is a lot like the other games I've talked about so far. It is a game that was made by a relatively small studio. The Wolf Eye Studios that made this have roughly about 20 people working in it. So I would personally definitely qualify this as an indie game. And despite my misgivings at the beginning of this is another great example of why indie games are so often amazing. As is often the case, an indie studio took an idea that they had and they went full on with it. No holding back whatsoever, not caring about, is this only going to reach a limited number of people? No, they're like, this is what we want to do. Weird West does that just like all the other games I've talked about thus far. It has taken this idea of the Western, a classic adventure that all of us can get behind, no matter how cliche some of it may be becoming at this point. They took dark, odd elements that you usually don't get to have combined with your Westerns. Things like shapeshifters, the occult, possible other dimensional deities or demons or something messing with things here on Earth, and they combined that with a near forgotten gameplay style. It's simply a joy, as it turns out. I honestly did not expect to like this game. Not because of the aesthetic, not because of the story, but 100% because of the mechanics. I don't usually get into these like twin stick shooters, which is the way it was described to me at first, but it's so much more than that. It actually called me back to playing Fallout for the first time, or Fallout 2, and that is an experience that I remember fondly. Unlike some of the other games that I have talked about with the Y series of videos, Weird West is one that, while it is built with that indie love and passion that makes it a niche game, this one actually could appeal to a very large market, I think. The older gameplay style may not appeal to everyone, but if you give it that chance and you actually look at it, it is simply a joy. The game functions wonderfully. And one thing I'm going to mention here that I haven't mentioned yet, just like every other indie game I think I've played within the past 5 years, I have not run into a single glitch. I have not run into a single performance issue. And as we all know, AAA games that have cost millions upon millions of dollars to develop are nothing but glitches. I'm just saying, passion overtakes budget. It does every single time. And Weird West is another great example of that. It's so weird. Weird West was definitely a surprise hit for me. I went into this thinking I wasn't going to like it and then immediately got turned around on it. It's definitely a hit. So, fun fact about this game, as I'm going to probably be doing in all the ends of these videos, Weird West, as you can probably guess, it has a lot of Native American characters as well as lore in it, based off of the timeline that it's using, for example. One of the great examples is the skinwalkers that you encounter in the game. Very much a Native American superstition. But one thing that I absolutely love, and this is something that only an indie studio would do, is they knew, okay, our game is going to have a lot of Native Americans in it. It's going to be using a lot of Native American mythology and culture. How should we handle this? I know. Let's actually go out and get a Native American person and have them join our team to make sure we get this right. Isn't that fantastic? They actually went out, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this lady's last name, and if you ever hear this, Elizabeth, I am so sorry for mispronouncing your name. I suck at that stuff. But they went out and recruited Elizabeth LaPince, who is Native American descended, and they had her on the writing team to make sure they got things right. Isn't that awesome? This is why indie studios are the best. But anyways, guys, in closing, as usual, behave yourselves and go play some games.